Hey everybody, let's keep talking about credit and loans. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, what do we already know about a loan? So we already know plenty about a loan. First of all, remember that getting a loan, or sometimes we call it using credit, is just borrowing money. And you have to pay that money back with interest. We know already there's simple and compound types of interest. And when we used to talk about this, we used to talk about why we wanted high compound interest rates. And that was because we used to be investors. But now we need to think like borrowers. And when you're a borrower, you want to pay as little interest as possible, which means you want low interest rates and you want them to be simple interest. And if that works for you, then that's how you're going to save yourself the most money. So there's lots of different types of loans that people sometimes get. Maybe you need to borrow money to go buy a car. We call that an auto loan. These are sometimes also referred to in commercials as special financing, or financing, they sometimes pronounce it. Many people have to borrow money to pay for college because college is expensive. And good news, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. There's many different types of college loans and things you can do to help save yourself when it comes to pay for college. And credit cards. We kind of probably already did an example of credit cards, but to make a long story short, credit cards are when you need to borrow small amounts of money, like a price of a tank of gas, or the electricity bill, or a new pair of shoes. And this is fine when you use them in moderation to help establish good credit scores, but you need to avoid using credit cards too much because there are high interest rates, and sometimes you have to pay fines and annual fees just to use the card in the first place. That makes stuff more expensive. The final type of loan that many Americans, like yourselves, will end up having to use is a mortgage. We've talked about mortgages once or twice before, so you might remember that mortgages are money you use to buy a house, to borrow the money and pay it back. There's two kinds of mortgages. There are fixed rate mortgages, which are the good kind, I call them, because the interest rate stays the same forever, which means you're not going to have to end up paying more month by month as the life of the loan lives on. The downsides is that these interest rates tend to be a little higher than the other type of mortgage, which are called ARMs, or adjustable rate mortgages. I'm going to recommend people choose fixed rate mortgages because you can save money long term. But let's look at the adjustable rate mortgage. Anyway, these ARMs, they have an interest rate that can change. And so you might start with a low rate, but if the bank wants to, they can raise that interest rate up. And now all of a sudden you have to pay more money on a month-by-month basis. That's not good, which is why I say that these are not a good idea. That's a mortgage. Now here's the thing. When we talk about borrowing, we often kind of talk about it with negativity. But the thing is that borrowing can be helpful. Remember that it can help you go to college, which is an investment on your future. It can help you buy a house, which is good for you and your family. But we still have to remember that when you borrow, you are putting yourself into debt, which is not a good thing. We also have to remember that borrowing means that whatever the price is for the products you're purchasing, you have to pay more than the price because of the way the interest and the fees and the fines add up and make you pay more than that number. So here's some practical advice. I recommend, first of all, that you try to simply be patient. And if you have something you want to purchase and you don't have the money for it yet, rather than borrowing money and using a credit card or getting a loan, why not just wait a little bit longer? Take that money that you're getting from your job or you're getting as your income and start to save it. Set it aside. And when that money then finally adds up to the amount you need, then just buy the product. Avoid going into debt. Avoid the increased costs. See, we live in a culture in the United States where we want something, we want it now. And we're told that if we want something and it'd make us happy, just go get it. Don't worry about the consequences. I don't think that's a wise way to live, either in your personal life or in your financial life. So trying to save up and be patient, it's a good step forward to make things work out better for you financially. Remember, borrowing should always be a last resort. Another thing to keep in mind is that you should never do what we call payday loans, or sometimes referred to as rent-to-own stores. I'm not going to get into payday loans, but suffice to say, they charge you outrageous amounts of interest. They're short-term loans, especially designed for people who've run into a bad situation and they don't have enough money to meet a need. Maybe you had a car accident, you have to pay for a repair, you don't have enough money. You could get a payday loan, but the problem is you have to pay that money back with lots of interest. It's very expensive, and I don't recommend it. These rent-to-own places also, they can seem like they're giving you a good deal, but they're often ripping you off. An example of a rent-to-own place would be a place like Aaron's. Let me go to Aaron's.com and show you what I'm talking about. You probably recognize this logo because it's a place you've probably seen. So Aaron's represents a place where you can get these types of products. Check it out. I can get a TV for just $25 as a down payment. I can get a mattress, or some fancy, appliances, washer and dryer. Here's what's going on here. Let me go back to this. When you choose to do one of these rent-to-own places, it ends up costing you more money than if you had simply purchased the product normally. So let me show you a real example. Here's a TV. It's an RCA 65-inch high-def flat-screen TV. What it says, this is, by the way, from Aaron's.com. What it says is that I could have this TV for only $110 a month. And if I make that payment for 24 months, then I can just keep the TV. It's mine. That sounds pretty good. After all, $110 a month is much more affordable than whatever the price of this TV probably is. But check it out. If we read the fine print down here, you're going to notice that right away there's an additional 10% payment for something I don't even know what it is, which makes the actual monthly payment come out to be about $120 a month. So right away they're charging me more than sort of they're initially advertising. That makes me feel suspicious. Now, if we take that amount and we multiply it times the 24 months that it would take to actually own it, the total cost of owning this TV through Aaron's comes out to be $2,903.52. Now, here's the thing. There are TVs that cost $2,000, $3,000, right? Maybe this is one of those TVs. Maybe it's just a really nice screen. Maybe it's a really nice picture. I don't know. Here's the thing. That same exact TV, watch this. I can get it brand new at Walmart.com for only $899. That's a difference of over $2,000. And you see, if I had simply been patient and been willing to take maybe whatever money I would normally use to rent this TV, and if I had set that money aside for 6, 7, 8 months, I'd be able to just buy the TV from Walmart and save myself $2,000. Think about it. With that $2,000, I could get 2 more TVs. I could have 3 TVs for the price of 1 from Aaron's.com. It's not worth it. So don't do that. It's not worth it. The Aaron's.com, the rent-to-own situation, it makes things too expensive. Now, a lot of this stuff we kind of maybe talked through. Let's skip it for now. And I want to show you what should you do. You see, sometimes in life, you have to borrow money. There's no way to avoid it. Maybe you want to buy a house and you don't have the hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for it. I don't. Maybe you need to go to college, and college is good for you, so you're willing to take out a few loans to pay for college. When loans are necessary, I have 3 pieces of advice that you should take to try to save yourself the most money possible. Number 1, get the lowest interest rate you can find. Get a lower rate. Number 2, pay it off as fast as you possibly can. Rather than taking the full time that someone will allow you to pay it off maybe in half the time, or maybe 2/3 of the time. And then number 3, pay more than the minimum monthly requirement. Now let me show you a quick example. Let's go to this website. This is a website where you can calculate how much money you have to pay on a mortgage, which is called, a mortgage. The word amortization up here at the top just simply means paying off a loan. So let's put in some numbers. Let's say that we're going to buy a house for $250,000. And let's take the full 30 years that most banks will let you take to pay it off. It's very common, 30 years. And let's use the interest rate that's defaulted here, 5.25%. Put in our zip code just for advertising purposes. We can use that later. And let's calculate it. Okay, what we're seeing here is that our monthly payment is going to be $1,300. We're going to have to pay a total amount of interest of $246,000. Now that's just the interest. If you add the additional cost of the actual home, which is $250,000, we're going to see we have to pay $496,000 on this house, which is crazy. Hold on, I'm going to go get a marker. $496,000 on this house? That's insane. We don't want to do that. I can't find a marker. Okay. So let's just keep that number in our minds. I was going to write the number down back here, but I can't find a marker. So let's round up. $500,000. Okay, now let's go back and do the things I suggested. Let's get a lower rate and pay it off faster. Getting a lower rate means that we lower this interest rate from 5.25 to less than that. And if you look at these advertisements. These advertisements are advertising 4.0%, 3.8%, 4.0%. So it makes me feel like maybe we could get a loan for just 1% less 4.25%. That's not even that drastic. Let's do the other thing as well. Let's pay it off faster. Rather than taking the full 30 years, many people cut that in half. They pay it off in 15. That's pretty ambitious. Maybe we can't afford to make those larger monthly payments. So let's take it and just shorten it to 20 years. Let's drop that down by 10 years to 20. Let's recalculate this. Now remember, we're looking at a current amount of $496,000. Recalculate it. Now we have to pay $371,000. That means we just saved ourselves $125,000. $125,000? That's insane money. That's like a whole nother house in most neighborhoods. $125,000 that we just saved? Whoa. And we didn't even have to do that much. All we had to do is find a lower interest rate and then pay it off faster. So when it comes time for you to borrow money for anything, not just a house, but to buy a car or to I don't know, go to college or whatever, you can follow these same principles and save yourselves tons of money. Get the lowest interest rate you can find, pay it off as fast as you possibly can, and even though I didn't illustrate it, paying more than the minimum monthly requirement will also save you money. In our scenario, by the way, if we made an extra $80 payment every single month, we would save ourselves an additional $10,000. So we would bring up that total amount saved to $135,000. That's crazy money. So, anyways, it's been a long video, right? I hope this makes sense to you. What's going to happen next? Well, I'm not sure. Talk to Mr. V if he's around, and good luck, everybody. Make sure that when it comes time to using credit cards, you think twice and make sure that you really need that thing. And if you can wait, save up your money, you ought to.